1987, Dopemen, The White Book by Makavelli, Episode 18. This is another chapter that's divided into two parts in the book. The first part of the book is essentially a story format of the song Boys in the Hood by Eazy-E from the Eazy-Does-It album. The chapter also references other songs from the Eazy-Does-It album, as well as songs from the N.W.A. Straight Outta Compton album. It also references Ice Cube's It Was a Good Day and Ice-T 6 in the Morning. The second part of the chapter has aspects from the documentary Welcome to Death Row, and that's the parts about Harry O. If you want to understand this chapter, and if you've never heard Eazy-E, Eazy-Does-It, N.W.A. Straight Outta Compton, or seen the documentary Welcome to Death Row, consuming those three products would give you a much better understanding of this chapter. Further, listening to Ice Cube It Was a Good Day and Ice-T 6 in the Morning would also help. N.W.A. Straight Outta Compton album and Eazy-E, Eazy-Does-It literally changed the world. So when you see interviews with Jerry Heller talking about how Straight Outta Compton changed the world, Jerry Heller says it's the most important album of all times. It's not an exaggeration. It literally changed everything. It's like Pandora's box. It's credited as beginning the gangster rap era. It's also criticized for damaging the Stop the Violence movement, self-destruction, the consciousness, the things that were going on the East Coast. If you watch the self-destruction music video, what all those artists were doing was all wiped out with a single album, Straight Outta Compton. I had Eazy-E. The first time I saw Eazy-E, I was like, this is going to be my favorite rapper. I had to have Eazy-E Does It. I had no idea the level of explicit language that was going to be on the album, and I was about 9 years old. But I seen Eazy on the song We Want Eazy, and I was like, man, who is this little guy? And I got the album. I wish the album didn't have so much bad words on side A, because when you're 9, you can't really blast bad words, but I'd put it in my Walkman and bump it. I was like, these guys are cool enough to not need to use bad words, but whatever. I enjoyed Eazy-Does-It, and when my cousin got Straight Outta Compton, we were just amazed at how like the same guys from Eazy-E were in N.W.A. and just how the color schemes and the whole image like crossed over, and we couldn't figure out which album came first because there was aspects of Straight Outta Compton that referenced Eazy-E, Eazy-Does-It, and songs on Eazy-Does-It that referenced Straight Outta Compton. So we're still trying to figure that out. And then later on, we ended up getting N.W.A. and the Posse, and that threw us for a big loop too. And even though Eminem was working with Dr. Dre, I thought it was great when he said, just study a tape of N.W.A. If you've never heard N.W.A. Straight Outta Compton and Eazy-E, Eazy-Does-It, by today's standards, it might not be as impactful, but I did hear on Backspin, Sirius satellite radio, they played F the Police. MC Ren's verse on that song has got to be the hardest verse of all time. I don't know if I said that already in one of these videos, but MC Ren's verse is just out of control on that. When I was a kid, Eazy-E was my absolute favorite rapper, so much so that when him and Dr. Dre split up, I stayed with Eazy-E. And I didn't even buy the Chronic at first. I didn't want to get it. But then it was just such a big deal that I had to get it. And I was happy I got it. Like, I eventually was like, man, these guys need to make up because, they're both awesome. Dre seemed to do fine without Eazy. I just wanted N.W.A. to get back together. They were like the best group of all time. I had the N.W.A. home video, and just seeing Eazy-E and Dr. Dre engineer their album when they were arguing about where to place the sirens and how to phase them, and just seeing how they work together was just so magical to me. And like, I used to have dreams that I'd be in a record store and I'd find another N.W.A. album, and I'm like, oh my God, yes! And I'd buy it. I even remember what it looked like. It was like orange, like yellowish orange. And I even looked at the back and I saw the names of the songs, and I bought it and I brought it home. I listened to it. I actually heard songs that don't exist in my dreams. And I wished so bad that it was real. And even to this day, I mean, Eazy-E's not even alive, but I wish N.W.A. I still want N.W.A. to get back together. And it's just, I think Jerry Heller said it too. He's like, it's just a shame for the whole world that they broke up. Why couldn't they put aside their differences for the benefit of mankind? And the album Effel for Zagen, spelled backwards, was a great follow-up album. Not having Ice Cube kind of, wasn't good. Although 100 Miles and Running was great. It's just too bad they all couldn't get along, because N.W.A. was such a big thing. And this chapter is entitled Dopemen. And Dope Man was a song on Straight Outta Compton. I think it was also on N.W.A. and the Posse. And that song is what started my lifelong appreciation for what I call the funky flute. I don't know what it's called, but that... If you had that in a song, I'd buy your album. Like Ice Cube had, You Know How We Do It. Too Short had Just Another Day in Oakland. There's tons of songs that have the funky flute, but basically if you had Mad CJ Mack, Come and Take a Ride, if you had the funky flute, I was going to buy your album no matter, even if your lyrics were terrible, I was going to buy it just for the funky flute. But yeah, this chapter is about Boys in the Hood. So the characters are Quincy McDonald, which is Dr. Dre, Edgar Evans, double E, which is Eazy-E, and then we have Killa B. I'm not sure who Killa B is, and KG. I don't know who KG is unless it's Dub C from the West Side Connection. I don't know. Could be. He like has some lines that he says in the chapter that reminds me of something that Dub C would say. Got Gangsters in Black, which is N.W.A. And by the way, if you know who KG really is, then go ahead and lay it on me. I was just seeing KG, Dub C, play on word. I don't know. I didn't know of Dub C being connected to N.W.A. though back then. Yeah, so Gangsters in Black is N.W.A. And, thinking of the impact of N.W.A., there was 2 spoof movies that came out about them. You had CB4, and then you had the lesser-known Fear of a Black Hat, which was great. And I think the main guy, Rusty Cundiff, he played, I guess, the Eazy-E character in Fear of a Black Hat. I think he's also the guy that was a writer for the Dave Chappelle show. But Fear of a Black Hat was a great movie. It's just weird that CB4 and Fear of a Black Hat both came out like at the same time. That happens a lot. You have Good Game, Orenthal Lawrence, which is Larry O, who is also Harry O. And Harry O is kind of a big deal. Most people don't know about Harry O. Then you have Sam, who's Harry O's right-hand man. I think like turns him in. Judge Patricia McMullen, Francis Kleinfeld, Letter, Adolfo Calero, Richard Secord, Sosa, and Oliver North. And it's a tale of 2 cities, Compton and Beverly Hills. The intro to the chapter says that Maya went to California. It touches on CIA drugs and the Contra scandal. And I did see that VMurder33 pointed out that Maya was a Buddhist goddess. Buddha's mother. So Maya was Buddha's mother as well as Tupac's influencer. The Crips, initially called Cribs, founders around 1970 were Raymond Washington and Stanley Tukey Williams. And to compete with the Crips, a couple of gangs had to get together, and these gangs made up the Bloods: Piru, L.A. Brims, Bishops, and Luader's Park Hustlers. The hip-hop rap references in the chapter, some were covered already, but the world-class Wrecking Crew was referenced when Eazy-E says to Dr. Dre, you need to get out of that lip gloss, sequins, corny stuff and get with this gangster stuff. It Was a Good Day by Ice Cube, Boys in the Hood by Eazy-E, Easier Said Than Done, that's also from Eazy Does It, Eazy-E, Straight Outta Compton by N.W.A, Ice-T, 6 in the Morning, and Boogie Down Productions, BDP, KRS-One, Criminal Minded was also referenced in the chapter. The Dr. Dre Eazy-E beef happened in an era before the internet, and so Eazy-E pointed out that Dr. Dre used to be a member of the world-class Wrecking Crew, and that he made like electronic music. A lot of it I used to hear at the skating arena, and I'm sure skateways around the country used to play world-class Wrecking Crew. If you go back and listen to songs like Juice and a couple of others, you'd be like, oh man, I didn't know this was Dr. Dre. And even Eazy-E, you look at Eazy-E before like the whole N.W.A image came about, it's just kind of interesting see how they all looked back then. Dre is kind of reluctant to get involved with Eazy-E in the chapter until he finds his car sitting on cinder blocks and his rims jacked. And I guess tires jacked too, so then he gets down with Eazy and Ruthless Records. Excerpt 32 is 6 in the Morning by Ice-T. It's from the Rhyme Pays album. I don't have any snippets to play of this that I can use, so it goes 6 in the morning.
Police at my door. Fresh Adidas squeak across the bathroom.
Out the back window, I make an escape. Don't even have a chance to grab my old school tape. Got a knot in my pocket weighing at least $1,000. Gold on my neck, my pistol's close at hand.
I'm a self-made monster of the city streets. Remotely controlled by hard hip-hop beats.
But just living in the city is a serious task.
Didn't know what the cops wanted, didn't have time to ask.
That word. And yeah, that just happened. Lippy and Ice-T performed 6 in the morning. Anyway, hope that cracked you up. Excerpt 33. Veteran drug enforcement agent Celino Castillo III never figured his toughest anti-drug case would be against the federal government, which employed him for 15 years. Last week, flanked by civil rights leader Dick Gregory and the Reverend Joseph Lowery, he staged public protest at DEA headquarters in Washington to demand an official investigation into the government's clandestine Contra policy, which allegedly flooded America's predominantly black communities with cocaine during the 1980s. This was hardly the first effort by the veteran DEA agent to expose the story, along with numerous other law enforcement officials, congressional investigations, and investigative reporters. Castillo has been battling for over a decade to expose the government's use of drug profits to finance covert operations against Nicaragua's Sandinistas government. For Castillo, the big picture became clear around January 14, 1986, when he says he tried to alert then Vice President George Bush at a U.S. Embassy party in Guatemala. At the same time, Castillo was covering several Central American countries for the DEA, convinced that something funny was going on at El Salvador's Ilopango military airbase. Later revealed to be a prime transshipment point for Contra drugs, arms, and money. He told Bush, but he just shook my hand, smiled, and walked away from me, Castillo recalls. That same day, Castillo says, as Bush met with Oliver North, then the point man at the National Security Council for sharing intelligence, transportation, and military facilities with the Central American drug dealers and Contra chief Adolfo Calero. You know, I wonder if they were mad because, not because of what happened to people that got hooked on drugs, but because it was going against communism. I bet you if you dig deep, they're really just mad that communism was getting defeated and they could care less about the people that got hooked on drugs. They're just using them. Because we're talking Cold War era, and both sides were fighting the Cold War, which was also an info war. Excerpt 33 continued. In the ensuing months, Castillo meticulously gathered his own evidence. In a February 14, 1989 memo to his Guatemala-based DEA supervisor, Castillo detained how known traffickers with multiple DEA files used hangars controlled by North and the CIA at Ilopango and obtained U.S. visas, despite their background. There's no doubt that they were running large quantities of cocaine into the U.S. to support the Contras. Castillo told reporters in a 1994 interview on the eve of North's bid for a Senate seat in Virginia, "We saw the cocaine and the boxes full of money. We're talking about very large quantities of cocaine and millions of dollars." Oliver North's own notebooks are chock full of references to drug-related Contra operations that clearly support Castillo's claims. On July 9, 1984, when the Contras were desperate for money, North wrote that he went and talked to Contra leader Federico Vaughn, who wanted aircraft to go to Bolivia to pick up paste, wanted aircraft to pick up 1,500 kilos of cocaine. And this is an excerpt from the San Jose Mercury. The San Jose Mercury is the newspaper that published Gary Webb's Dark Alliance. And you'll recall from a previous chapter we spoke on Kill the Messenger, Gary Webb, Dark Alliance. Excerpt 34. In April 1986, Costa Rican police seized a small airplane loaded with cocaine near the Nicaraguan border. Arrested was Adolfo Calero, second commander of U.S.-backed Contra forces, and 2 anti-Castro Cubans. This spurred an intensive investigation by Costa Rican authorities, which led to the expulsion of CIA agents involved in drug running for the Contra operation. Among those expelled were Oliver North and Richard Secord, former head of Air America. They could not be prosecuted owing to diplomatic immunity. In the same way that Air America acted as cover for covert CIA cocaine smuggling in the locations of both of these operations, standard military surveillance of these areas was shut down for national security reasons so that the CIA could conduct their anti-communist operations unhindered. And that was taken from Mark Zepazauer, The CIA's Greatest Hits, 1994. I mean, look, if it's the Cold War and the CIA is conducting anti-communist operations, duh. In 1987 and 1988, a John Kerry subcommittee on narcotics and international terrorism took reams of testimony on the CIA cocaine connection from CIA agents, Contra, mercenaries, drug pilots, Medellin cartel accountants, and law enforcement officials. Kerry said at the time, "Our covert agencies have converted themselves into channels for drugs." And that excerpt is by Dennis Bernstein and Robert Knight, winners of the George P. Polk Award for Radio Reporting and the Jesse Meriton White Award for International Reporting. Excerpt 35. In 1972, there were an estimated 18 gangs in the greater Los Angeles area. By 1982, that number had risen to 155. In Los Angeles alone, combined Blood and Crip factions reached 275 by 1996, with an estimated 150,000 soldiers at war with not only each other, but also the biggest and best equipped gang in the city, the 40,000-member Los Angeles Police Department. Some of them knew what they were up against. I tell you this now, one day a revolution is going to sweep down, and it's going to move straight across, and we ain't going to be talking in terms of Bloods and Crips when it happens. There's going to be a whole new enemy for us. Maybe it won't happen in my generation, but it's coming. Maybe I can touch just one potential ghetto star and start him thinking. This was said by Blood member Ryder from Do-or-Die. I want to say I see success, but what I see is death, because I know what they do to people who are poor, who are active, who don't relent or recant. The interviewer says, they? My real enemy is the United States government. That's who controls the Crips, the Bloods, and me. Spoken by Crip member Monster Cody from Do-or-Die. So the section on Beverly Hills. Harry-O has dinner with a judge and a councilman and discusses the economics of the prison system. It reminded me of a lyric I had, economics of the drug trade keep the feds paid while you head upstate. So in that case, 24/7, 365, time to ride. Know that you can be touched. You think they're embracing your fortune? Man, they don't give a what. Harry-O tries to convince them to invest in educating the youth and providing programs, but instead of doing that, they're investing in prisons. Harry-O gets arrested while at dinner for conspiracy, trafficking, and murder. Good Game speaks with Larry-O in prison, and he mentions that he's taking care of Juanita. And so this had me wondering, since Good Game was speaking with Larry-O, Harry-O, and Good Game in the book is related to Famous Game, Dame Dash, and Dame Dash is with Rockefeller. I was wondering if this linked Dame Dash, Rockefeller to Harry-O, because Rockefeller was founded in 1995, and Tupac joined Death Row in 1995. And then shortly after, Dr. Dre left, and Harry-O in that Welcome to Death Row documentary kind of mentions that he started having a split with Death Row because they weren't doing things how he had wanted it. So, I don't know, maybe Harry-O has a connection to Rockefeller. And if that's already well known, my bad. I'm just learning about Dame Dash and The Rock and all the stuff recently. So, they talk about Oliver North, Contras, etc. And a recap on the rising gang epidemic. In 1972, 18 gangs. 1996, 276. 150,000 gang members versus 40,000 LAPD. This is a recipe for disaster. And again, it's a Cold War. So both sides, the communists and the capitalists, are both fueling discord. Going back on that thought about Harry-O, Rockefeller, Dr. Dre, Dr. Dre leaving Death Row. If you think about it, when Dre left Death Row, he then worked with the firm, which was Nas, AZ, Foxy Brown in nature. And when you think about it, AZ and Foxy Brown are tied to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z's tied to Rockefeller. So it's just, I don't know, there's something going on there. The Dre thing with the firm, it never made sense to me. And then also around the time Dre Day came out, Luke and 2 Live Crew and JT Money from the Poison Clan and Courvoisier, they made a track called Cowards in Compton. And it's just the lesser known of the diss tracks during that period of time. And then I think Rodney and Joe Cooley had a track called F New York, and Tim Dog had F Compton. But yeah, Luke's from Miami and I'm from Florida, so I'm just repping Cowards in Compton, Get Sprayed and Dade, JT Money. Yeah. And so that's it for this chapter. I'll see you in 1988.